Bruce, the original title of this book was Sudden Thunder. Can you talk a little bit about why you changed it and the significance of it?
Well, first of all would be, the practical. If somebody goes to look, if they're going to go on the internet and they want to see Tony Conigliaro, if it's Sudden Thunder, they're going to look under T, not S, if they're looking for Tony C. At the same time, Sudden Thunder had been chosen because everything happened in Tony's life suddenly. There was nothing that built up. His childhood sweetheart, Julie Merkakis, he's playing in the Thanksgiving game over in the Manning Bowl, and he comes and he sees this girlfriend. She's on the cheerleader for the opposite team. He lines up, he's staring at her, he lines up behind the wrong, he's the quarterback for St. Mary's, and he lines up behind the guard instead of the center, and he's, come on, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. And looking off, and he doesn't realize, and the guy just flipped it over his shoulder. But the thing is he was smitten, the two of them. And that was an example. First at bat at Fenway Park, first pitch, crush. It goes over the green monster, over the screen, out on the Landown Street. And
that's pretty far. That's a pretty good hit.
That's a blast. And he's a 19-year-old kid at the time.
That's incredible, in my opinion.
First game at Fenway Park, and he launched it. So there was a lot of things that happened like that. And of course, the pitch coming out of no place that hit him, that wasn't on in the script that night when he showed up at the ballpark. But there's a lot of things that happened suddenly in his life, and Sudden Thunder seemed like an appropriate title, but then no, this is the Tony Conigliaro story because it's about Tony. Everything in the book is true. I use real names, dialogue. If it wasn't in keeping with the experiences people had, I wouldn't have put it in there. So a lot of people have said, including his girlfriend, you must have been perched on his shoulder back then because it sounds just like him, and everything that's happened was true. So.
Yeah, so right here on the table, the book standing up, that is the actual book written by Bruce Fitzpatrick, and then this is a bat, Tony Conigliaro bat. So, Benji, you've been sitting there very patiently. Do you have any questions for Bruce?
I was actually wondering, what was your passion like? Why did you all of a sudden just want to become a writer?
It's just I had a urging for a long time. Back when I was graduating from high school, one of the things I was contemplating was going out to Southern California, either to USC or UCLA, and taking up writing because I just had this itch. I wanted to do it. And I got sidetracked. A number of years later, it kind of came back into my mind, and I'm reading all these books, and I'm saying, geez, I think I could probably write like these guys do. Let me give it a shot. And I sat down and started writing, and about 10 minutes into it, I realized this is what I want to do. And the first thing I did was write 7 children's books. And the first one was The Mysterious Hole in the Mountain. And yeah, what happens when they go in, I can't tell you that. You have to read
this book.
Yeah, no, the book hasn't been finalized. I haven't sent it out, but it's in the back of my mind. One of the things I want to do is I'd like to get those written where they're published. But that was what I did. And having done that, I was committed to it then. It was part of me. So.
Yeah, usually once you start doing something, such as being here at YBA, I, saw a sign because it's right next to my dentist office, and, I said, I just want to try doing this, and here I am today sitting in the studio. So there's nothing wrong with trying, for sure.
Not at all.
Absolutely not.
Got some great questions you've been asking, too. Got a good memory, Jack Hamilton and all these people that you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely.
He's got fantastic notes over here.
Yeah, well, that's what you got to do as a broadcaster.
Definitely.
Yeah, so for my next question, so immediately after Tony was hit by Jack Hamilton, he was lying in the clubhouse, and in your book it said that all he cared about was living and surviving. So do you think that was really the first time in Tony's life where he realized that there are more important things to life than just baseball?
Well, he wanted to live because obviously if he didn't live, he couldn't do anything. Baseball would be over. His family, he was deeply committed to his family. He loved his brothers, his mom and dad, his uncle. The people that were relatives were big on his list, high on his list of priorities. Baseball, of course, because here they are. They're going for the World Series. the Red Sox hadn't finished or come close to a World Series in 21 years. They'd lost, I think they had lost
46?
more games than they won for the last 10 years prior to that. Yeah, and
Except when they faced the Brewers. My dad was telling me, like, when the Brewers were part of the American League, they were
Yeah,
both
Milwaukee.
really bad, so they would have these grudge matches, kind of.
yeah, well, that was the thing, you know. There's all of that goes on in sports, regardless of which sport it is. There's teams that just, they like to dislike each other. But in this case, Tony had an opportunity to do his childhood dream, which was to go to the World Series with the Red Sox. And here it is. This is, you know, all of it's getting ready to happen, and then he got hit in the side of the face with a 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
What are the odds? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And I interviewed Jack Hamilton, and you could hear it in his voice. He absolutely, positively, still to this day regretted. He said, if I'd have known that that was going to happen that night, I wouldn't have even shown up at the park.
Oh my
He's
God.
still sorry for what happened. And it was a pitch that got away from him. You know, there was
It
nobody.
happens to every pitcher. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean, what about the batter that hits a line drive back and hits the pitcher? You still got a guy that's just had that happen to him about 2 weeks ago. You know,
It happens
batters
in
didn't do it on purpose. It happens. You know.
Yeah, there are a lot of freak accidents in baseball and
in all
in
sports,
everything.
really.
In all sports and
Sure.
really in everything. I mean, anyone can get hurt on any given day, and it's unfortunate, but there are many things that are unavoidable, and this is just one example of that.
Look what happened to Gronk last year with the football season coming to it, and hurt his leg and
Right.
missed
that
the-
lost us a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah, but that's just drawing a parallel to what happened to Tony with the Red Sox in 1967. So.
Yeah, that's true. So during the winter of that season, 1967, when he got hit, so Tony, he was in the hospital for a while, but he spent the winter practicing. He was down in his basement swinging baseball bats. So what do you think his motivation was? Because he didn't have very good vision, and he certainly wasn't 100% physically. So what was his motivation to do that?
Simply put, he never gave up on himself. He never gave up on his dream. His purpose in life, from his standpoint, was to be a professional baseball player, and he was willing to train to whatever lengths were required. He never stopped going to see the doctors over at Retina Associates because he kept all this discouraging news, but he continued. Even when he resigned, he said, I've retired from the game. Well, he might have done it in the paper, but privately, he couldn't give up. He just had to keep trying and trying, and
His
eventually,
passion,
yeah. I mean, that was his purpose for living. You take that out of his life, and in his mind, he had nothing left. But he stayed after it. He's a perfect example of why people should never give up if you have a dream. I've seen people get Oscars who everybody said, I shouldn't do this. Who was told that they should never, don't even bother being an actor. The guy came in and he wanted to get an agent. And he said, you look funny, you're this, you're too this, you're too that.
And then, oh, look, Academy Award, I win.
Yeah, well, the guy whose name said, and you talk funny, well, the guy they told that to was Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, Terminator.
Hasta la vista.
Yeah, baby, I'll be back. And that's the point. He never gave up. And 5 years later, he's a megastar.
Yeah.
But he didn't let somebody discourage him or talk him out of something he really wanted to do. If it's in your heart, there's a way, I believe, that's one way or another, you can, in some aspect of it or another, you can end up doing what you want to do. It may not be exactly like you wanted to, but if it's something where you're drawn to it and your life there's magic in this for you, you'll find a way to be involved with it, I think.
Yeah, so we're running out of time, but Benji, any more questions for Bruce?
No, actually.
Sure.
Sure?
Sure, man, come on.
Just even a comment just on the book?
I mean, my dad was telling me about last weekend that I was going to come here this weekend, and it was about this, and he told me the story behind that bat, that when he was sick, with his heart attack, he sent away to donate money and they sent him a bat back. So I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah. That was the other thing, a lot of people came and rallied around Tony. I mean, major stars, Frank Sinatra, Dionne Warwick, so many big people came and they did a fundraiser. I don't want to give away too much of the story, because I will say this: what happened to Tony after he left the game was a lot more challenging than anything that ever happened to him while he was playing the game. And that's the stuff that people don't know. That I mean, if you read it, you know what I'm talking about. So it's I want to
Very
get the
compelling story.
stuff. Yeah, well, good. I'm glad you liked it, and I loved writing it. When I sign the book for people, I tell them I hope you enjoy reading this as much as I loved writing it. That's the way it was.
Yeah,
Very
I
good.
mean, the Tony Conigliaro story, I mean, it was really a feel-good story. I mean, coming out of high school, he was a local teenager who would be playing for the local team, and then it just became a nightmare after he got hit, and then with a very sad ending, which I won't give it away, but
Right.
he died at a relatively young age, unfortunately.
But just so that people will understand, Brian's song, which was about Brian Piccolo and Gale Sayers in football, that was one where he passed away at the end, and everybody come out of the theaters and come away from that just sobbing. But it was good. They felt like they lost a friend. And that's, you know, you get somebody close enough to the reader or the viewer where they feel like they've suffered a deep personal loss. As a writer, an actor, a producer, a director, you've done your job.
Yeah, so unfortunately that's all the time that we have, but thank you so much for coming, Bruce. It was
Thank
great
you
to
for
talk to
having
you.
me. Great questions.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay,
so-
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We're
And,
going to go to a break, so we'll talk about Patriots and Bills after. See you after the quick break.